I'm absolutely freezing. I've got my granny blanket on, got my heater going, got my cup of tea.
I love it.
I feel like an old woman.
No, this
No
is no
comment.
comment.
Yeah, safe choice, Tom. Safe choice.
Well, we're just waiting for Jack to come in. How have we been?
Busy. So many deals on the go at once, like just the deal flow. And like leading investments, which we don't normally do. So it is full on, but great.
Same. I feel like I'm calling people every second day. I'm going to start getting blocked.
Well, what I love is the fact that like capital is the inhibitor of our growth, right? Like we just need more capital in on these deals. And I was telling Don, I did a back of the envelope calculation on just the deals recently, and we could have easily deployed another 7 mil over the last couple of months with these deals. And it's a great problem that we have that side to solve for, because deal flow is just bloody phenomenal. So I feel good despite the challenges.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day. Where was I? I can't remember, but like their underlying tone was like, our world is much easier, much more predictable, much safer. It's nice having a cruisy life. And it's like, mate, do you know what an emerging manager is? Like
Constantly raising, constantly hustling, dealing with, yeah.
I tried to invoice him for my time in the conversation, but he refused. Well, Aaron's got to jump off at 8:30 just for 15 minutes.
Yep.
And I shouldn't have referenced it just to see if anybody noticed.
Quality of conversation would have got. Would have been a listenership spike as I left.
Well, just a quick recap. Remember a little while ago we talked about Adam Robinson at RB2B that was planning to take his human company away for a week and just let all the bots and the agents do their thing. Well, he posted yesterday giving a bit of an update. The impossible just happened at RB2B. All FTEs disappeared for 7 days. AI agents ran our entire business. Zero intervention. The result, our 6 mil ARR business ran smoother without us than when we were there. I have a feeling we would probably be the same case study, but anyway. Revenue held at plus 4% for the month. Churn held steady at 8.9%. He admits that's absolutely horrible, but steady and no worse than the humans. They got 425 free signups that converted into 47 paying signups, closing while they slept. Zero material customer issues, and our AI agents didn't sleep. He then gave a bit of a sales breakdown. There were 76 conversations initiated, 155 they reviewed afterwards as strong or quite strong. 6 they found to be completely wrong. So when you work that out, 96% of the conversations were correct or great. In support results, there were 248 conversations. The resolution rate was 76%, escalated with 59 tickets, resolved after telling users that we weren't there. So I think that's effectively saying that it just went back and said, well, no one's here to help anyway. And people went, oh, yeah, okay, no, fair. Unresolved. Yeah, that solved it. Unresolved tickets, 28. So the total resolution rate was 89%. In summary, simply telling people humans weren't there, users solve their own problems. So he says the takeaway, RB2B just proves the unthinkable is reality. I think a week would be a bit different to 2 weeks, a month. And my view is that this may not be sensible to do on everyone's business, but do you have the capability and capacity and knowledge and skill and know-how to even try and pull it off? Because if you don't, you're probably a bit behind. And so it's not about actually behaving in this manner, at least at this point. To me, it's, are you developing the systems, the processes, the people, the capability to actually do it?
Yeah, I had the exact same reaction on one. Data isn't that telling. And it'd be interesting to see those that self-resolved in their language, whether they actually end up churning or like they're just actually dissatisfied but just couldn't be bothered. But the capability development from doing this, and I think for founders, the lesson there is like running these experiments to develop the capability and the insights. And then from that, they might apply, like improve, like they were saying with the API aspect, like there's learnings from it that they can embed even with humans in the loop. So well done. It's a good one to track. And I'm curious to see if any others run experiments like this publicly where we can see the data.
I think the big thing that I forgot is that they went to Burning Man for a week, which in itself is like a whole another thing to resolve and unpack.
I mean, I think this is I think the initiative of even just thinking through what's required to enable this to even run at any form shows initiative, shows kind of the future thinking of the business, particularly from an org structure perspective. And I think now that that team knows the capability of these agents, I would bet that they will actually spend less time on the tasks that the agents demonstrated capability and more time on critical thinking, strategy, actually where human cognitive load should go. And that's always, something that we chat about with businesses is like, where can you leverage technology to remove the work that AI or automation can do? And so I think this is a great demonstration of that happening in real life. And I think it would be a great test for most businesses to do this in some form.
There's got to be a lesson for founders, Jack.
I reckon we should give it a crack. Also, you heard of Burning Man.
Yeah.
I think we have to. I mean, given Jason Seed's a venture partner and always has a presence, and I think we need to go to his camp.
Well, last week we talked about you need to lean into the cringe. Like if we're going to do this game, we're going to do it properly. We've got to turn up there in our Patagonia. We've got to do it. Then we've got to post all of the lessons.
We don't even have a Patagonia vest.
No, we can't afford it. I appreciate that. But we could paint it on. This next one, like last week I mentioned I had to go to a board meeting for a board I'm on in the US, nothing to do with Tribe. But they're trying to raise VC funds from a position of 30% growth. And the reality is, was there ever a time that VC looked at 30% growth? Probably not. But like that's PE. But what we're just finding is that if you're not over 100% in the US, they don't need to look at you because they're all trying to find the next things that are actually going to 100 million in like 18 months. And so this chart that I put here, somebody's broken it up into, it's not just about looking at the 100 mil club. They've broken it up into centaurs, shooting stars, and supernovas. And even centaurs, which is getting to 100 mil in 7 years, which used to be the triple double kind of thing, like that's almost not good enough anymore. And the shooting stars that can get to 100 in 4 years are being squeezed out by the supernovas that are getting to 100 mil in 1.5 years. And I think it's just important to understand that we're not suggesting in the Australian ecosystem that you have to replicate that, and nor are we only looking for that, because you can still get great venture returns with strong growing stuff that might not get to 100 mil in 18 months. But if you're going to the US to raise money, understand the competitive environment that you're going into and understand that what might be good here is not good enough over there. And even if you've raised capital here, that doesn't mean that you can raise it over there. And Americans tend not to give a shit about any traction outside of their own borders.
Yeah, this confirms the data that Jason Calacanis shared, the growth rates that you have to have just to basically get a meeting in Silicon Valley. And it was 8 to 10% month-on-month growth, which works out, what's that, like 150 to 220% growth per annum. And it is because it is so competitive and it is a big market. And your point's spot on, Don, about the difference here. Like I think building a very healthy foundation to the business in the Australian market, understanding our market is small, but then when you scale into these markets, you have to be hitting those kind of growth rates. And the challenge we see for Aussie founders is they get a big uptick in growth as they enter these bigger markets, but the growth rate isn't actually at the level that is best in class where they can get those meetings. And I was looking at our portfolio performance yesterday, and it's like I was updating the revenue growth, and it's really good to see that, Swarm Farm's revenue is up 670% from when we invested. We have a big chunk of the portfolio above 300% growth, most above 250% growth since we invested. And that's it. Most of them are still in domestic markets. Some have scaled internationally, but it's that scaling internationally does give you the growth, but you've got to be growing fast enough to get a seat at the table.
That then dovetails into a little video that I saw from Alec Karp, who's Palantir's co-founder. He's the guy with the crazy hair that looks like he should probably be in an institution, not leading Palantir. But let me just play this.
Places we were too arrogant, and some places we weren't
That's
arrogant enough. That's like if we had gone into the VCs and been like, "You, we're gonna win," they probably would have given us money.
Do you have any favorite stories from some of those VC meetings?
Well, I mean, we had so many, but obviously the most famous,
too many.
the most famous is we're at like the most famous VC, and like we're in the last round, and they're pretty, and the most important partner just like spent his time doodling. My fantasy of it is he was doodling some erotic little picture that he was, fixated on. But, but in non-fairness to that person, I think if we had stood up and walked out, we're like this, you guys are wasting our time. Chances of them investing would have been much higher. One of the things that entrepreneurs or builders need to understand about the Valley is if you're not overtly aggressive about representing yourself, they'll just assume that it's not real.
If you're not overtly aggressive, they'll assume it's not real. And that is one of the transition challenges a lot of founders have going over there, because our conservatism here doesn't play well.
This is my theme of the week. But absolutely, and this is a lot of what our venture partners share with the portfolio companies or the mission participants when we take them over, is in the meetings you have to be pushing for like, what are the next steps? What do you need me to do? What are you doing next? And if you're not doing that, it's a signal that you're not pushing hard enough. But also that, like in his vernacular, that fuck you energy. It's like, we don't need you. You need us. We're doing this regardless. And for Aussies, that's it's almost against our cultural upbringing, right? We're more humble. We have tall poppy syndrome. Don't stick your head up because you get chopped down. But in these markets, UK as well, you've got to be, UK is more humble brag. US is overt brag. Like, you've got to be arrogant. You've got to be pushing. You've got to have that hunger. And I remember Jason Seed sharing that for investors and customers as well, they want to be chased. Like, they want you to be doing multiple calls. They want you to be going after them. And if you're not, they don't take you seriously. But it's almost like the opposite to the Australian culture in that way.
Yeah. I'm looking at you, Jack.
I got nothing here, Don. I think Ash should chime in with the sales experience in the US.
I thought you'd have a Wallabies analogy here, Jack.
Nah, the Wallabies did get the win on the weekend.
Well, now that they're back, I'm expecting you to have more lessons from founders from the Wallabies.
Are they back though?
Yeah,
As in systemic, the team is good, or is it just?
The team is definitely on the up. Like, they are definitely on the up. The average age would be like 25, and they're just fighting through to find a win.
They are so back.
Ash, I think about you with this one too, hustling on the calls.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, in my sales DNA from having in my career grown up in North America, where you just hustle, you do follow up. And I think, Aaron, sometimes I'm calling you going, okay, like, is it too fast to follow up here? Like, I don't have that cognitive understanding of the Australian market, and so I have to do the reverse sometimes. But like, from the first time I had an interview at JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, any of those players, like, you get taught at uni, you send a follow-up email before you go to bed that night. Doesn't matter how late you finish interviews, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., doesn't matter. You get back to your dorm, you go and you send an email. Everything happens in the span of the 12 hours. Same with meetings. I might finish, a 4 day of meetings, and I've done 12 meetings. I cannot leave the office and go to sleep until I've sent out the email with a follow-up on every single one of those emails. And if an email isn't answered in a 24-hour period, I'm picking up the phone, I'm sending a second email. Like, that's the kind of pace that's expected and anticipated. And if you don't move at that speed, you're not considered serious.
Yeah, it's something I've got to improve on. I get caught up on stuff, and then I go, right, I'm going to get back to that on the next morning. And then inevitably some shit happens the next morning. And so it's a good call out.
I think as well, this makes me think of the Don, the convo we were having yesterday about one of the portcos, like, in terms of, and we've had this feedback too. Baxter talked about it with fundraising. Like, he talked about it in the context of when a potential investor is asking to negotiate terms or like reduce fees or get a special deal. What they're actually looking for is signal that you stand firm, because it's a measure of desperation if you are discounting. And I was thinking about that portco conversation yesterday, where when founders default, they come from a place of lack and they default to discounting or yielding on terms in order to get the deal, as opposed to just saying, no, there are terms. If you don't like it, Like we're moving on.
Yeah, and to get a company off the ground, you've got to be a little conservative and give way. But at a certain point in a company's evolution, either you have a product that has product market fit, that delivers value that nobody else can provide, or you don't. And if you do, and you can delay a bit of the cash flow, then in very polite terms, as Nigel from Canopy has learnt, you never burn a bridge. You always keep it there. But in very polite terms, you hold the line and say, I'm sorry, our terms don't meet your requirements. I'll touch base with you in 6 months to see how you're progressing. And that level of confidence often gets a customer who's normally used to bullying people going, oh, well, hang on. And in this situation, it did exactly that. They're able to hold their terms, hold their margin, and I'm proud of the team for doing that.
I'm going to bounce. I'll be back in 15.
That's if we let you back in. All right. Well, I thought it'd be worth just touching I don't know about you guys, but to me, like this first couple of years of the AI era is being new companies coming with new products to really disrupt. And there's a lot of noise around existing companies are in trouble. But Oracle, what was it, 3 days ago, added $300 billion in market cap in the overnight market. Larry Ellison's wealth went up by $100 billion in a matter of hours. But the reason why is just the way that they're sort of leveraging the AI boom, but how they're leveraging AI internally. And I think what we're about to see now is this cycle of existing companies that have existing relationships and installed base that were considered to maybe be old tech that are now taking AI tools and really leveraging that installed base. And I think we're starting to see it as well with our portfolio, where stuff where we may have been a little bit nervous on, going, oh, what's the future going to look like? Supporting the teams and the founders that most need it to actually embed it in their product to then supercharge themselves. I think that's a wave that we're starting to see. And I think this is just a manifestation of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'll send you a couple of links to include in the show notes, Dom, but I recently listened to 2 podcasts on Lenny's podcast, one with the founder and CEO of Intercom and another with the co-founder and CEO of Airtable, and both really touch on this sentiment. And one of the interesting things that they both touch on, I just want to get the right language that they used, which is the fact that throughout this shift in, I guess, market dynamics and business kind of dynamics, there is this shift from the founders who have had to be leveled up into more of, a traditional C-suite role, actually getting back more on the tools, because we're in this path where they're having to then think about, well, how does this business re-evolve? What does this actually look like as an AI first business? And I thought these 2 podcasts really captured some interesting insights for founders, particularly on the fact that, the statistics do say that if the CEO of a business is at least leveraging ChatGPT or Claude every day, it is 90% more likely that the employees will be open to leveraging AI. And so it just, again, demonstrates that the founders and CEOs of these companies have such a dramatic impact, and them really getting their hands dirty in these businesses and really thinking about the evolution of their business. Some of them were even talking about, we just completely tipped the business on its head. We just threw out the entire billion-dollar business and went, yeah, we're going to keep that going for now, but we know that that is not going to be there in the future. So we have to think about this next evolution of the business. So yeah, really good insights, and definitely see that trend as well.
Yeah, something that Lenny pointed out, which I actually saw on LinkedIn this week, and it's consistent with what you said, Don. So it's late stage SaaS businesses spot an opportunity in AI, go all in, and then growth explodes. And he gives the 2 examples of the companies that Ash referenced in the podcast. And one of them is Intercom, which we all love, and Des Traynor, and such a cool company.
Yeah, it comes down to something we've spoken a lot about on this podcast. It comes down to the culture and the climate and the ability to manage that change loop. Can you manage, which is really just decide what to do and implement, so get the resources, the skills. Can you decide what to do and implement what needs to be done, coming from problems and opportunities that ultimately come from change? And all AI is a very fast, very big set of changes that is then going to create some people a lot of problems and also a lot of opportunities. And it's that ability at the core to traverse that change loop. And that's what we're going to find. We're going to find the companies that have developed that culture and have maintained it. And in Founderland, we're about to find the founders who know how to develop and maintain that culture. And we're about to find the ones that can't. Our role is trying to help them facilitate that. It's interesting that not all companies are going to be able to traverse it. Did you see that OpenAI has launched that it is getting into the jobs game of effectively a jobs board, which in my mind, when I thought of it, was like, okay, they're simultaneously coming at Seek, Employment Hero, given what Employment Hero is seeking to do, and a component of LinkedIn. There was a post by Michael Brown that said they're launching the OpenAI jobs platform to connect companies with AI skilled workers, compete with certifications inside ChatGPT to improve your fluency. Their goal is to certify 10 million Americans in AI by 2030. Imagine what that looks like globally. It's going to be interesting.
I thought this was brilliant. I thought this was such a good play. And I think they definitely have learnt from Google here. So I don't know if you'll remember, what was it? It was pre-COVID. Google essentially came out and said, if you do our Google certifications and you don't have a bachelor's degree, that's fine. If the certification's in line with the job you're applying for, we will remove the requirement of having a bachelor degree. And so I think this is like, again, they've learned from that and they've seen how many people started to do these courses to find a way into Google, that they've gone, okay, well, let's now just apply that in this AI ecosystem, knowing full well that AI talent and literacy is one of the biggest pain points in the market. So if they can be not only the business that owns the quote unquote best models, but also the talent and how they train them and only train them on how to use their models, it's interesting. I think it's a very strong stance. And I was like, that's smart. I was like, well, guess I'll be getting some of those certifications, add it to the resume.
Don, I did like the top comment on that post. So it's, what can ChatGPT teach me about B2B sales?
But I think this is like, this is where there's like the platform functionality versus like a very narrow service. So like a Seek, its function there is for you to go post a job and find someone. If I had to back someone, I wouldn't be backing them. I'd be probably backing an Employment Hero, because Employment Hero can leverage the AI. There's lots of other functionality and lots of other tools. And now they're adding the ability to find those employees through what they want to do with jobs. So I can well imagine an Employment Hero just adding the OpenAI certifications via API or something else. And so this change, I think, enhances someone like an Employment Hero, because it is a broader platform seeking to add a lot of value. And if you are Seek, if you believe that the future is going to be driven by humans managing agents and having some AI skills, and the dominant platform is bringing that functionality out, I'd be shitting myself and be hustling hard to work out how I'm going to stay relevant.
Yeah, if I was Ben, I'd be hustling to negotiate a partnership like HubSpot did with OpenAI. You know, I think the early partnerships demonstrate to me where they're not looking to cannibalize that kind of market initially. They may in the future, but at least if you can form a partnership, I feel like you might be safe for a little bit. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. But I agree. I think Employment Hero has so much benefit downstream that it's not going to just disrupt that. But if there can be a partnership and it can be interconnected and you can access the certifications inside the Employment Hero banner as well, I think there'd be a lot of businesses who would push their employees to include part of that as their L&D.
Yeah, I agree. Now, one of the things that comes in and out quite regularly, they start up and then they die, and then they start up and they die, is corporate VCs. And I think it was this week that ANZ's venture capital arm, 1835A, is now under scrutiny that looks like it's about to...
1835I.
What did I say?
A.
Well, it's about to be shut down anyway, so no one's going to give a shit. This article in Capital Brief says it's game over for is it game over for the corporate VC experiment? While everyone from banking analysts to Reddit commenters is watching Neuromatos wield the axe across ANZ, a smaller drama has surfaced at the bank's venture capital arm. An ANZ spokesman confirmed to Capital Brief that 1835I would not be spared from the red pen, saying it was part of the strategic review underway. Now, this comes on the back of the news that 1835I had sold its Airwallex stake for $67 million and then also abruptly shuttered cash rewards after investing $100 million. So the $67 million, I'm pretty sure Jack and the other founders bought that back. So normally it's founders taking secondary and cashing out. Jack and crew borrowing money from somewhere and buying out weak investors. That's got some conviction.
Yeah, I remember listening to one of his recent podcasts that he was on, and he was just like, yeah, we're taking out loans to buy back from banks, from venture debt, wherever we can get capital to buy back equity. Like founder mode on its steroid.
And while you're in the private markets, I think that's probably okay as long as you're in the right trajectory. So many companies have been brought down by founders taking out loans to buy stock and then getting hit by trigger points. But yeah, while they're in this growth mode, it's probably okay. So the article goes on to say the moves at 1835I mirror a broader retreat from corporate venture capital across Australian finance and highlight the risk for startups that take their money with promises of strategic partnerships and customer access that often fail. Now, the other thing that I was reminded by, I saw Eden from Auto Guru the other night, and Jack, they're about to go out for another raise, and I just had to sit in the corner, and because the numbers that he's talking and the greatness that he's achieving just makes me somewhere between embarrassed and upset that we weren't able to participate.
And did he remind you, Don?
Well, he was very, what's the word? Like, you knew the way he was talking was making it clear that it needed to really get home how much we had fucked up. But he did it in a very polite manner. But he's a legend. He's a great guy. I love having a chat with him. We always have a laugh. And somebody that's just stuck at it and absolutely deserves the success. But the point being, they went down the route of getting some strategics that were going to support them, that were going to help them, and almost bloody killed them. And the business that's absolutely firing right now for them, they wanted to do like 8 years ago, but the strategics killed it and said, no, you should do it this way, only for the strategics then to not help them. And it is a reminder that I often see, you just almost never see a strategic actually deliver any value. Sorry, actually the only one that I can think of, Jack and Ash, is Gaspot. Like their strategics got them off the ground and continue. So we do have a case study of it working. There you go. All right, so we've got one. But yeah, I just remind people to be very careful that if you think a strategic is going to deliver a lot of value, and if you think through on the Gasport one, the strategic was signing up to be a customer.
Yeah, that's the same with Timely. That's the only other one I can think about, with Bendigo Bank being their kind of first strategic investor and still today one of their largest investors, but again, came on as a customer. So I think maybe there's something in that nuance there, Don.
Yeah, and I think the big challenge, and it's pointed out in this article, is that the corporate partner or the corporate VC or the strategic, there often ends up as a mismanagement in the risk appetite over time. And what happens is the person that was really excited to do the deal on the other side, they often leave, and then in comes somebody far more conservative that probably irons their underwear every morning and then goes, why the hell are we dealing with this thing that is messy, keeps getting into trouble, doesn't seem to hit forecasts and always needs cash? And then the same cycle happens. So
yeah. I think it is potentially also a reflection of how the Australian CBC, I guess, market and structure is set up. I know in the US there are, but the purpose of that CBC is to act as a financial VC. They are, yes, looking at domain areas of interest for the underlying mothership, but their P&L, and just like us, is determined on if they make a financial return. So I think there's also the different types of structures of corporate venture capital, which I think plays into the dynamics and the strategic side of, if you're just investing to get learnings, if you're investing because you want to potentially buy them one day, if you're investing because you just want to watch the market and have a better understanding, or if you're investing for a financial return and a bit of everything else. I think they all have different layers of complexity and sophistication, and also generally returns. I think by and large, the research I've done in this space, Chevron Ventures is by far the best performing CVC I've been able to find numbers on. If anyone else has others, be really interested to see.
So speaking of complexity, but with what was that other word you used, Ash? Sophistication. Aaron's back.
I'll take the complexity. I think I'm pretty simple.
Complexity is sometimes not used in a positive manner.
No, I totally appreciate that.
You got anything, Jack?
And I got nothing.
You got nothing. Got nothing. Well, this next one is sort of linked to my theme of the week. So we might blend it as a transition into the theme of the week, if that's okay. But Elon's new pay packet could see him earn $1 trillion if they hit the milestones. Now, at first, I just felt sad for him, because imagine, in my mind, I was like, imagine having everything you've already got and then still being motivated by money. And I just felt like, what a cretin. But then I was having a conversation with a great entrepreneur in the ecosystem that has a huge vision and is trying to work out how to achieve it. But he helped remind me that Elon doesn't care about the money. He cares about the goals that he's trying to achieve, especially around Mars, which takes a fuck ton of money. So he is clearly very incentivized. Like $1 trillion buys you a lot of rockets and buys you a lot of things to ultimately get humanity to Mars. But here's the challenge, that he's in that position now where he can do things to create money, because he already did all the precursor things to create the businesses that got himself into this position. The challenge that I see, that I was talking with this entrepreneur about, is I almost never see at work where someone is just doing something to make money. Where people are doing things because I need to make money, even if the other thing you want to use the money on is noble, I just never see the world reward that. It's actually people that fall in love with a problem, that see a big pain point, that have a real passion for it, that do it because it's either hard or because it's going to be of value. And a small percentage of those people then get rewarded for it. That's the sequence. Whereas people that are going, I've got this big vision over here, but I need to go and make money over there. So I'm going to go and try and find ways to go and make money. I don't know. Have you seen it work?
No, I've seen that pattern play out so many times with founders who are motivated purely by the financial, inevitably hit hard times and give up to go to something else, or they suffer shiny object syndrome where they see the next opportunity to make money and switch to that very quickly.
Or the idea is shit.
Oh, totally.
But the shiny object syndrome is like, if something genuinely takes 10 years, but you're not doing it for the right reasons because you want money and you only put 3 years into it, then you jump to the next thing. Then you jump to the next thing. And then you never get.
Yeah, exactly. And it also, the third pattern I'd add is it leads to short-term thinking. So they tend to chase short-term opportunities at the cost of the long-term, and they don't build a durable business. So I totally agree with you on this one. And I think the inverse is also true. Those that are motivated purely by impact and social outcome, but there's actual no commercial reality to what they're doing.
So that was the other thing I shared part of the way through the combo. I said, this is slightly difficult, but the people that are most interested in impact and helping humanity are the people that I find are the least happy and most frustrated, because whoever's programmed our prompt has not added things into our capitalistic universe that rewards that. And the most unhappy, most frustrated people I find are the people that are purely trying to do something good for humanity. And it's a shame and it's sad, but it's a funny world we live in.
It is. And unless you've got the personal capital to go and have that impact, but if you don't have that, and you're trying to just purely do good, it's a bloody hard path that's set up for unmet expectations and unhappiness.
Anybody that I talk to that's trying to achieve something really big and complex is I try and remind them of authority, power, and influence, and that change happens when the authority, the power, and the influence come together, work together, agree on the solution, and implement it. And authority is those that can say yes or no. They're like people that are in positions of authority. But then power is those that need and expect cooperation. Power is those that we need and expect cooperation from. If you need somebody to do something or change, they're the ones with the power, even if you have authority. And then finally, there are influencers that can help coalesce everyone. And so the problem with these really big humanity-defining, humanity-improving things is that to get the authority, power, and influence to work together and transcend their self-interest, that is so hard. I mean, it's hard to get people to transcend self-interest in small teams, let alone across an entire world. But often I'll always get people to come back and say, all right, you've been attempting to do X, Y, and Z, and let's say that it's great and it's noble and it's a good outcome. But let's analyze what's getting in your way. And when you have a look at it, authority, power, and influence aren't working together and you haven't brought them together. And there are conflicts of interest where there's too many people voting for where there's too many turkeys voting for Christmas, and it's just never going to happen. So that's my theme of the week.
I love that, Don. I think like just piggybacking on that, my theme is probably somewhat interconnected, but it's more around sometimes education is the key to removing the barrier to change. When talking about AI specifically, where when we're bumping up against these kind of friction points of businesses either not wanting to adopt or not knowing kind of how to adopt or where, it's generally not the founders and the CEOs that have this mentality, but it's that middle management, the kind of juniors who are probably scared, either consciously or subconsciously. But then it's the education gap of not actually knowing their skill set and how they can leverage these tools to do their job better or to even evolve into a new role that is pushing people to just push away and go, no, I'm not changing the way I do things. I'm not adopting to this new work life. And so I think like it's very interconnected where those people have the power now. And I think they will probably for another 6 to 12 months. But then I think that pendulum is going to shift very rapidly to being, that's fine, but we're going to have to hire people who want to leverage this.
Yeah, authority, power, and influence is always changing. And people that overuse their power just need to be careful, because those in authority can then start to work around it for some things, like inside a company.
Yeah.
When you're trying to change the world, however, it can be a little bit difficult to try and coalesce authority, power, and influence to change. And the humans are just a funny beast where we will do things that make us feel short-term good at the expense of the long-term every single day, even though we have more information than you can poke a stick at as to why that might not be optimal.
It's why I, eat my chocolate every night and go, oh, did I really need that the next morning? Oh, short term felt great.
That change piece around AI, you just made me think of something, Ash, a combo with my 12-year-old daughter this week. So she's in year 6 at primary school. And she had a relief teacher, and the school is kind of anti-AI, particularly her teacher this year is don't use AI for learning. But Mia asked this substitute teacher, do you use AI ever to help with your marking of assignments? And she's like, yes. And she's like, well, I use AI sometimes with my homework. How about your AI just talks to my AI? And the teacher's like, that would be great.
It.
Yeah. And the teacher was like, yeah, we can go for a coffee and actually have the human experience. And that's the world you're growing up in. So it was that difference of how the different teachers respond and adopt and see the future. Whereas I love Mia for asking the question. But
that is so good.
That's so interesting. Imagine you're in the future, if let's use GPT study mode as an example, where it's the GPT study mode for Mia then goes and reports back to the teacher's agent and says, Mia asked some really interesting questions. He has thought about the problem. And so it's teaching you to think and problem solve versus how do you get to the right answer. Like that is how in my brain I've always thought school should be. And even with Dad as my principal, I'd be like, I don't understand why I'm doing this. Why are you asking me to do this?
Dad was your principal?
Yeah, my primary school principal.
That explains so much.
What do you mean?
I love this. These insights.
Yes. These are the little insights that this is why I love this podcast. We learn about each other as well.
I want to understand why this explains a lot.
Well, let's.
It might be an off-air conversation.
Yeah.
My theme of the week, I touched on it before, but just the positioning of that, coming from a place of strength, like not needing the customer, not needing that energy of needing to win the deal, as opposed to the energy of, I don't need you, you need us. And for me, even just a little shift with some of the conversations we've been having this week, it is so powerful. And I think it's it's very subconscious though. And if you believe certain things, it'll come out in your language, it'll come out in the points you emphasize. And I remember hearing this thing once, if you're always telling people you're busy and what you're coming from this place of, I don't have capacity, the signal you are sending is no one will bring you opportunity, because you are telling them you don't have capacity for opportunity. Versus if you're like, we have so much opportunity, but we're constantly growing and seeking more, and you share with people what you're looking for, they will bring those things to you. So I think this subconscious element to your psychology is so critical.
One of the things I've tried, like you sort of learn after a little while, that actually across your entire life, if you can foster an ability not to need anything,
100%.
Just in negotiation with a couple of deals on some of the property side, prior, I'd be behaving in a different manner. Whereas getting yourself to a position where you don't actually need it and you can just walk, it's just so often entrepreneurs and just people in general day to day get themselves into a position where they need something and they need something to happen, and then it fucks them. Yeah. And I've really been trying to cultivate this environment where actually we don't.
Yeah.
Also, Aaron, just on that kind of putting out to the universe what you need, for the past kind of 6 weeks, every person I talk to, I've said, here's what I'm looking for, or here's kind of the concepts that I'm working on. If you have anyone who might be interested in discussing it, or I'm looking for investors who are interested in these kind of ecosystems, we've got a fund. And then I'm just having even yesterday, I just got a text, oh, so-and-so gave me your number, thought that, we should have a conversation. And it's not that immediate feedback loop, but I've been finding that, I know everyone always, talks about putting the energy out there for the universe to be able to give you signal and, say yes. But I've tried to go further and just be so direct with the immediate things that I'm looking for and needing. Might take a few weeks, but it's now I feel like I'm actually getting these connections that I would have never found to these people. But there's derivatives of people out there now doing my job for me.
The universe rewards specificity. That is part of the problem, is when you're not specific. And for us, that I think the lesson is, being down in Melbourne and then talking with some investors, I can absolutely improve, not assuming people know the help that we could require after some of those conversations where they go, oh, I could do X, Y, and Z. And then you think, well,
why are you only just saying this now?
But it's not them, it's me. It's actually going through the list and saying, actually, I need this specific piece of help. And humans will then often go, yeah, I can do that. Whereas if you're too general and too broad and you're too fearful of asking or having the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think humans naturally like to help each other, and people probably don't because they fear they can't add value. I think one of the things I've learned about myself is the times where I'm most on edge are when I feel that I'm not providing value. And so I'm not going to put my hand up to help someone else if I don't know how to add value. Whereas if, Don, in this case, we called investors, we said, we'd like to have a meeting. Then you go into the meeting, you learn about them, you learn about their network more broadly and in a deeper way than we have via phone calls and video calls. And then you can go, great, based on everything you've told me, it would be incredible if you could help us do X, Y, and Z. That's, we're just evolving.
Just getting better at leveraging that.
And the other part is people are so head down in their own life and world that they're not thinking about you and drawing those dots. But
am I not the center of the universe?
And the extrapolation of this is actually having more friction. I think about, I've had a little mental shift chatting to investors on deals recently, where if they're raising an objection from a personal level or a personal perspective, just go, oh, yeah, this isn't the deal for you. And it's okay because we're actually over allocation. And those triggers, it's like, wait a second, I'm going to miss out on something. That the FOMO that gets created actually then leads to conversion, versus what I would have previously done is justify. And it's a totally different positioning.
And I think one of the things I think we can get a little bit better on is how much work we've actually done on these. And then with what we're committing in, like when I spoke to one investor about some of the detail that we'd gone to, they're used to other parts of the ecosystem that are more about just getting deals done, getting deals out, and padding out a doc. And so being able to better communicate conviction for where we play. But yeah, no, that's good. Jack, where are you?
Theme for me sort of touches on a few of the companies that we spoke about earlier in the podcast. So I suppose like the saying, luck favors the prepared. Like what I'd add to that is prepared and who stay in the game. And a great example of that would be Intercom. Like their luck was staying in the game long enough to then benefit from AI emerging. And another example would be NVIDIA. But I think just one that is a company that we're speaking to that's going to come live to the syndicate. They've just benefited from the main competitor shutting down. And it's just that they're prepared. They've got the resources, team culture, so they can execute, but they've been in the game long enough and they've earned that. So I think it's just, a great takeaway for anyone in business.
Stay in the game, which is in itself, stay in the game if you should stay in the game and you've got a product that deserves it. But yeah, that's a really good one, Jack.
That's a good one, Jack. And not just being busy, but being busy on the right things. Like the fact that team is now that they're chasing that opportunity that's come up. They're not just doing BAU or talking about it. They're getting on planes and closing those deals.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's quickly get into some charts. This will be a fairly quick one. It's a little bit slow this week. So this is China since 2001. This is them adding to their gold stockpiles. So just have a look at how much it's up and to the right. So China just keeps stockpiling gold. And so you wonder, I mean, the gold price has gone up by double.
Does China hold any crypto?
Oh, I got no idea.
No idea.
It's an interesting question. But yeah, for a base metal that apparently is somewhat irrelevant now from our financial system, somebody doesn't think so.
I would just love to see other nations that hold crypto at a government level. The differential in up and to the right on gold versus crypto, I think my guess is there would be potentially a correlation.
Yeah. Well, I'll try for next week.
Thank you.
I'll put that in as a request. I'll skip that one. Just as a reminder, this is the like, what would you call it? The hype cycle, where something first takes off in the stealth phase, then the awareness phase, and then the mania phase, and then the blow-off phase. And I think in terms of some of this AI stuff, we're still, I think, in the mania phase where we've moved from enthusiasm into greed and potentially a bit of delusion, maybe. But all technology, just don't forget, needs to sort of go through the bull trap, the fear, the capitulation, the despair. This isn't living up to its hype. This isn't doing what we thought it would, before it washes out all of the shit products and the weak-handed capital to then end up in a place where it's fully adopted. So it's just sort of a reminder when Oracle can jump by $300 billion in the overnight, we're probably not in the stable phase.
No, I feel like this cycle is going to happen multiple times in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're only just begun.
Yeah.
So this is the delinquency rate of office debt, and it just keeps going post-COVID up and to the right. Like, offices are in a lot of trouble, and they've overtaken the financial crisis back in 08. The fallout from the financial crisis that started in 08. This is just some data that just shows that team sizes are shrinking, which we sort of knew, but this data is really highlighting, combined between the capital markets and AI, team sizes are going backwards. And so you have to be very careful looking at a company that's shrinking and saying, oh, okay, well, they don't have opportunity because they're shrinking. Well, actually, no, teams are becoming more efficient across all raises. This one is how many funding rounds did it take to build a unicorn? And you can see that the middle line is it actually takes about 3 funding rounds to build a unicorn. But there are some companies that took 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like Tesla took, 10 fundings before it became a unicorn. Topgolf took 15 founding 15 rounds before it became a unicorn. Anthropic only took 1. Bumble took none. It was already a unicorn by the time it raised capital. So yeah, it's not once and done.
That's interesting. I misread it at the start because I'm looking at, there's a lot of hardware companies over on the right. But to build a unicorn, so they had that many rounds before they got a unicorn vault. That is,
Yes.
Wow. That's super interesting.
All right, let's get into some more serious ones. So a study was done, a longitudinal study on 15,000 men. And so this is IQ and testosterone. And as testosterone decreases, IQ increases. But have a look at that top right. Who's that?
Who is that person?
One dude that has like a 160 IQ with off the charts testosterone? Now, given a previous story was shared about Jack and his testosterone, Jack, have you gone and re-had it tested? Were you able to just get it tested without faking manhood problems?
No, I haven't had it tested again, but I've got a baseline.
But you're still feeling good?
Yeah, still feeling good.
Are you feeling smart?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So the question here is, do you want to be smart or do you want to be manly? But you can't have both, according to this data set.
Yeah.
This is not so much challenge, so this is funny. My daughter, for Father's Day, wrote from the school, "Dear Daddy, I love you more than a butterfly because you are so colourful and you're as funny as a frog." Funny as a frog. I thought, I'll take that. Now, there's 5 levels of rich. Level 1, no car. Level 2, a cheap car. Level 3, Range Rover. Level 4, Ferrari. Level 5, back to no car.
These curves are so true.
Yeah, that's the midweek curve as well.
Yeah, that's it.
So I'm either level 1 or level 5 for the past 15 minutes. So yeah.
You oscillate. So yeah, only a quick one there, Ash. What are we looking forward to?
Bit of a personal one for me. So my niece has ovarian cancer and she's been down at the Royal Brisbane this week and had a good, well, comparatively good diagnosis yesterday. So we're catching up tonight. We're going to have some dinner and see her and my sister, so that'll be bloody awesome. And then a packed weekend. So Cruisy's part of, it's called the 100 Guitar something performance at the Powerhouse on Sunday. And got a hike with some friends and it's going to be a jam-packed weekend. So just looking forward to a bit of personal time.
Yeah, all the best to your niece.
Yeah, thank you.
Jack?
I'm going down for the grand final. So I'd say it's one of the best days of the year, grand final weekend. Bright didn't get through in prems, but we're through for seconds and thirds. So be down there 10 a.m. start and then there all day.
Have you got a leave pass to rip the lid off or what?
Yeah, I have for a minute. So Sunday I'm going to be useless.
I was going to say, my memory of last year, Jack, I think it was even Monday, you were still pretty useless.
Yeah.
Ash?
Crows versus Hawthorn tonight. So big game. That's AFL for the rest of the team. Yeah, so this is only our kind of first time in finals in kind of 8-9 years. We win this, we go into the semi, and then hopefully last weekend in September. So this would be awesome just to get this win for the club, for fans. So we managed to get tickets. It's another sellout, so there'll be 50,000+ there tonight. So it'll be a great night. So very much looking forward to that. And then Tim is officially hooked on Pilates, so he is very much looking forward to our session tomorrow together. And honestly, like going to the market and then having a very relaxed weekend. Tim's working on Sunday, so I'm like, well, I'll work too and I'll catch up and I'll be ahead for the week. He's like, you don't want to go see friends? I was like, being not overwhelmed next week is the win for us all. So if you get emails from me on Sunday, Jack, I know you will be ignoring them, but that's why.
Well, if I get an email on Sunday, Ash, I'm going to be at the Performance VC founder retreat, so you will not be getting a reply from me.
Or you'll be getting a very interesting reply.
Yeah, so what's this about, Don? Performance retreat.
I will tell you when I find out by the end of Sunday, but it sounds pretty out there, and I'll report back next week.
Right.
You got to be in it to win it. Just gotta look internally sometimes.
Could be everlasting bonds is all I'm hearing. Hopefully there's some VCs who are on their second and third fund might need to invest in ours for some diversified returns. Make sure you slip that in there.
I'm told that there are some great investors and founders, so I will debrief next week. All right, I got to jump.
All right. Thanks, team.
See you guys.
All right, mate.